Okay, this is our third session of day 2 at Building Life Science Adventures 2023, and delighted to have Ricky Martin and Claire Thompson with us today. We've got a fireside chat, and they will be discussing is entrepreneurship a contact sport. So just a couple of housekeeping points before we get going. If you don't mind keeping your microphones on mute throughout the discussion, that would be great. However, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to pop these in the chat box. Just to highlight, we do have closed captions enabled if you do require that feature. And we are also recording today's session, and all of the recordings will be made available afterwards. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Claire and Ricky, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you very much. I guess, Claire, we should probably introduce ourselves to start with. So let's be, so I'll let you lead, and then I know what standard I need to try and beat.
Oh, jeepers. I'll keep it brief. Otherwise, we could just talk about biogs for 30 minutes. I'm Claire Thompson. It's my privilege to be Chief Exec of Agility Life Sciences. We're an award-winning formulation development CDMO. So we work with tiny, small and medium-sized biotechs to turn their badly behaved molecules. They're all badly behaved into products that give them the best chance of success in preclinical studies and then can be accelerated onto clinic. As you can tell by the lines around my eyes, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, big pharma, virtual biotech, CDMOs. Ricky.
Excellent. I'm Ricky Martin, everyone. I'm not the singer, unfortunately. I am the recruiter. That's Ricky Martin. So I'm a biochemist by academics. That was my background. I'm a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry. And rather than 20 years in science like Claire, I'm almost 20 years in supporting careers in sciences across primarily the UK, Europe, and parts of the US. So, started my business 10 years ago, 50 of us in the company. So, I've worked with competitive people looking at our topic areas, entrepreneurship, contact sport. Absolutely, it is. There's a quick answer for you, but I'm sure we can discuss more. And please, if anyone has any questions for Claire or I as we're talking/rambling, please, the chat box is open. Put some comments or some questions in there. We're very happy to take some questions and try and kind of give you our thoughts and our feedback. So where should we start, Claire? People. I think people is the most important.
Well, people work with people. We should definitely start with people, and I think that's going to be a thread that works all the way through. So I'm a sportswoman as well, so I'm a former footballer. Ricky, I know you've dabbled with wrestling and are a big football fan as well. So I mean, I agree with you. Entrepreneurship is a contact sport. It's all about working in teams, trying to get the best out of people, not the most out of them, and understanding how they tick. But I mean, the importance of network, I think it can't be overplayed. But I mean, can you give the folk who are listening in today a bit of an insight into the importance of the tribe of people that you've had around you, both throughout your career, but also in building your wonderful business? And also, don't downplay yourself. You might not be a singer, but I've seen you move. You can dance just as well as the other guy.
Hey, that's only when we're running down the canals, Claire. It's only gonna run, and you beat me every time. So I won't go in that room. But I guess let's go to the root of what we're looking at. I know entrepreneurship's a big word, which is the topic area here, but I don't think I want the word entrepreneurship to over-confuse things. You can be an entrepreneur as well. You can have really good ideas and innovations within a business, not just for your own and support a company, but everything roots back to people. Absolutely everything. And you used a really brilliant word a minute ago, Claire, and tribe. I think tribe's such a strong word to help us to understand ourself, our people, our value, our community. That I think it's changing as well when we start thinking about tribes and cultures. That the world's a different place today as it was 5 years ago, as it was 10 years ago, and a culture is very different whether you are starting up on your own, whether you're part of an organization, you're contributing and adding and an ambassador for a culture, and it's different whether it's a really small business or really big business. There's micro cultures within master cultures. So I guess when I look at people, networking is so important. I think everything that we do, whether we're running businesses, whether we're running teams, whether we're a standalone operator or a subject matter expert, everything we do is about our ability to connect with other individuals, colleagues, suppliers, partners, people senior, people junior. Everything comes to connections, and to me, networking is at the root of all of it, which to me is always just two people coming together for a mutual reason, and not being more complicated than that.
Yeah, and I think networking, it still feels a bit key. People tell me I'm good at it, and all I do is I've got a couple of general rules in life, and one of them is if somebody's wearing fabulous shoes or they've got great hair, tell them. So I'll go into a room and I'll tell people they've got fabulous shoes, and you can see behind me, I'm a shoe addict. Welcome to my studio. So it's just finding common ground with people. Sometimes networking feels like it is forced, but it is such a wonderful thing to find those kindred spirits and those people that you add to your tribe, either physically bringing them into your team or keeping them as those network of wonderful people around you that you can go to when you're thinking of. So certainly when I was setting up my business and when we were, expanding out into, having our labs up in Nottingham, I went to people who I trusted to tell me the truth. They're part of my extended tribe to go, this is what I'm thinking. Please give me an insight into the things that I perhaps haven't thought about. Tell me why I shouldn't do it. And that's those people that you need to have around you as you grow as a person and as you grow your business.
I guess it's realizing we can't do everything on our own, right? I think that was probably a really steep learning curve for me, getting an organization going. I backed myself to be pretty good at recruiting and connecting with people and trying to help them to bring their careers together. But growing a business or growing a department or growing a team is a lot more than one individual within that. And like you said, Claire, an icebreaker to start a conversation, like, you've got great hair, let's have a conversation. I think those things are very nice. I think the world we live in now probably craves that more. I think I've realized over the last 6-12 months that actually meeting people in persons and networking in real life and going to events and putting yourself out there, coming online is the first step of networking, right? What everybody's doing here. If you look at the names in the room, we've got people who represent incubator centers, there's other recruiters here, there's people from membership, there's people from science, there's people senior, junior, there's a really broad mix of people, like just looking at names that I recognize on the screen right now. I think ability to break down barriers and talk to people, and doing so in showing kind of a humility about you and seeing people in reality, like when you started, Claire, that extended tribe of people can tell you what's good, what's not good. When you start actually realizing that you can't do it all and you do need help, absolutely you need help. Anyone who doesn't think they need help is wrong. Like, everybody needs support at every stage of our career, and I think if you want to get support, you should be prepared to provide support. And networking just comes down to mutuality, as far as I'm concerned. Two people or parties or individuals that are prepared to help one another. Looking at it on a long term, I think the worst type of networking for me is, hey, like, go in for the kill straight away with a conversation, right? It's very, unless you watch Married at First Sight, it's very rare that you marry the person that you first meet. Very rare. Unless you like that TV program, which my wife's all over at the moment. She's loving it right now, and I'm being dragged into it. But everything's about long-term relationship. And I think people, when they're starting out with a business or a team, or a department or a division, I think people who look at the long term succeed better than they're just looking for short-term gains.
And I think that brings us on to one of the other things you mentioned earlier is around culture. And I've already an organization of 15 people. You're slightly larger at 50 people, but you'll work with a number of organizations that are an order of magnitude bigger than that. I'm a big believer that culture doesn't come from the top, it comes from within. It's something that is sewn into an organization, and you build from that. So we've got our values and our behaviors, but actually I've put a team together within my tribe called Culture Club, which will, resonate well with the children of the 80s like me, maybe not so much for some of the younger generation here. But Culture Club has turned those values and behaviors into a culture document that states, what do those values and behaviors mean to us? How are we going to work together? How are we going to work with our clients? How are we going to work outside of our organizations? We are people with purpose, so everybody gets a proportion of their time as purposeful time. So we do engage a lot outside the organization. And are we as human beings complex creatures? No, we're not really. We're just like bacteria. You give us a great culture and it enables us to nourish and flourish. So from your perspective, what are you seeing in terms of how the clients that you're working with are building their culture? Are they starting early? Are they trying to retrofit it? How are they finding it, especially at these times when people are still very much hybrid working?
It's changed loads in the 20 years. From when I started, everything was purely about somebody's skill. And I think as the years have gone on, successful high performance organizations, whether it's sports teams that are high performing, whether it's businesses that want to perform well in their arena, it's coming down to the will, which leads into the culture and the value of the person. So is somebody matching your environment? I find more companies now asking me to be looking at behavioral and competency-led questionings for interviews to understand how somebody is actively demonstrated a behavior rather than can just show a technical skill. And I'm finding that's more and more common, particularly in leadership roles, because the technical skill necessarily is not as strong. It's the ability and the behavior and what you create. So I'm finding will becoming a bigger thing. That's very important for businesses of all different shapes and sizes. I think when you start out, I think every time someone joins your team, your department, your business, every new person can evolve that culture slightly. So like you say, having a culture club is really useful because you can make sure that you can continually be looking at what your culture is, because one person to 10-person team is another 10% added. Like one person to 1,000 person coming, that one person, unless they're complete toxic, isn't really going to completely impact it. So I think it's looking at the size of your team. If you're a big company, you can't change the overall organization's culture, but you have power of the culture of your team. So if I think of a sports analogy, then become an academy team within a master. I don't know, you become the academy team for Man United rather than the whole of Man United. And I'm a huge believer, and linking it back to sports, places like the New Zealand All Blacks, it's one of the most, I know they're not probably as good as they are at the moment, they're one of the most successful sports team of all time. And you're talking about New Zealand has been a small country of getting people, and they've done that through culture. They've done that through bringing somebody who doesn't think they're bigger than the team, or bigger than the team, bigger than the division, bigger than the company. So I think you've got to get it right. I think if you're a small business these days, you've got a greater opportunity of hiring people because you've got a really good culture. People want to be around, and it's infectious, and they add to it, and they're part of the business. I think 20 years ago, people joined a big business because it was great for their CV and it was a job for life. Now it's a small business. You've got the power to attract some great caliber talent because you've got a really good environment. So culture clubs helping you to kind of involve it. But what else? Because you guys have grown well. You won an awesome award yourself recently for what you're doing as well. How are you finding maintaining that, and how are you looking for the future?
We're really conscious of culture. So Culture Club is the internal barometer of our well-being, and a big thing of mine is celebrating success. So we need to do it often, even if they're small wins. So the theme that runs through my management team meetings and all of our team meetings are 4 W's. So well-being, workload, wins, and whinges. And those are the things that we focus on. But well-being over workload is one of our values. So it's something that is woven within the organization. We're very careful really about who we hire and how we hire. But because of what you said, Ricky, we're a small organization. So if we've got one if we bring someone in who doesn't quite fit the culture, then it can knock things off kilter fairly quickly. So we are actually looking more at hiring on attitude rather than ability, especially for those who are in junior roles. We can bring people in and teach them our bad habits rather than trying to unpick another organization's bad habits and go from there. So we are very willing to do that because culture is so important to us. We do see it as a tribe, and actually this may make you want to scream. We're not using recruiters. We aren't even actively recruiting on LinkedIn, but we get people coming to us saying, we've heard about your culture, we've heard about how you work, do you have any roles? So we found that our culture and how we do things is what's attracting people to come to us. Very much so from a talent perspective, but also from a client perspective. People like the way we work, the way we operate. They see us as people and not just as professionals or technical experts. So it's incredibly important, and it's something that I spend a lot of time on. I don't think that this is necessarily what a lot of CEOs will be spending a lot of time on, although you'll see many more than I will. I think a lot are more focused on the operational side rather than the strategic piece, and certainly the cultural piece. But for me, you know, your culture will set the direction of your organization, will set the ethos. We're about to go to trial a 4-day week as well. And I think that it's incredibly important to look after your people. For us to be, yes, we've got pieces of kit, we've got labs, we've got assets, but if I don't look after my people, I've got nothing.
Well, it's quite interesting. You mentioned wins and whinges as well in your 4Ws. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's nice to see, because we will have highs and lows, and to link it back to the topic is entrepreneurship a contact sport. I think sometimes if people hear contact sport, they start thinking, I mean, I certainly do. You can resonate words from there, like, I don't know, can it be aggressive because it's a contact sport? Is it unforgiving because it's a contact sport? But ironically, any high performing organization or team actually has developed such a strong culture within that team that actually the highs and lows are shared. You mastermind through the whinges and the losses and the pains, and collectively you rise above it, and the unity you get from that. So I guess I wanted to share on that topic. I think contact sport isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I come from a sales organization, and sometimes people think sales is really harsh, it's really unforgiving, which gets linked to sports, because a lot of sales people look for people with a sporty background sometimes because it shows competition. Actually, my honest opinion is high performance is what everyone's looking for, not put sport to one. And high performance does come back to the people and the culture and the humility to accept the whinges and move past the whinges as a group, than necessarily just look at the wins. I really like the fact that you put whinges as well as wins. Unless I heard it wrong, Claire, and you said it.
No, you did. Wins and whinges. We've got to celebrate success, but if things aren't necessarily going very well, then we share. We share where we've got frustrations. We share where things haven't quite gone right. You can't win them all. You can't. Well, we work in early stage research and development. There's, things go not as predicted all the time, and from a sales perspective, you can't win any contract. We can't win every placement. So it's important to acknowledge them, not dwell on them, and move on together.
And Claire, from your side, like, you've done extremely well in your career over the years. What do you think? What was the reason you decided? Because this would resonate to someone who's either starting their career, either thinking of setting up a business, or trying to take a team forward in the company. What was the reason you decided to do your own thing? What was the drive in you, and what got you going?
It was, it was opportunity. I had been volunteering for a not-for-profit organization, and they wanted a piece of strategic work doing, and to do that I had to set up, they needed to pay for that, so I would have had to set up as a contractor to do so. And actually, one of my tribe of people, one of the wonderful people that I always go back to, I said to her, you should do this because you would be great. And she went, well, I will do it, but only if you do it with me. And that was it from there. I hadn't considered it before then. And I think a lot of people talk about these serendipitous situations and about luck. I'm at risk of never being allowed to return to Ireland when I say this, but I don't believe in luck. I believe you make your own luck. You put yourself in these positions and you take risks and you go for stuff. So for me, it's about being brave. It's about being plucky and not lucky. So I got an opportunity and I took it from there. I grew the business from there, and was consulting for many years. Built my team around that, and then got to the start of the pandemic and thought, I'm finding it harder and harder to find organizations to outsource this formulation development work to. So I think we should do it. And again, I saw the opportunity, saw, the gap in the market for the gap. Had to convince my head of development that it was a good idea. It took 4 pints of cider, and then she was on board. But yeah, it's about I think seeing the opportunities, weighing up the pros and cons, and just being brave, bloody well going for it.
I think that's something that, again, it's not just about setting up a business, it's about growing a team and supporting a team. I think bravery is such a big skill that doesn't get spoken about enough. Like, there are some amazing people in big pharma, SME, whatever environment that are continually brave within an organization because they see ideas and they're prepared to present an idea or an innovation forward of something that could be interesting. Or secondly, I think, which is important, prepared to challenge how people are doing things. I think sometimes people think challenge is a problem. No, challenging in the right way is and having different thought processes and different kind of ways of doing things.
And I think
it's really
useful. This comes back to culture again, and having that culture where that environment where people feel that they're able to, you know, I've got this idea, and it may not be a belter, but so that they have the confidence that in their safety when they say these things, and also to challenge pieces. So be brave is one of the behaviors that we encourage. So be authentic, be brave, be creative, be a captain. I really should have had an acronym so I can remember all 8 of them. But these are things that, so we've created an environment where people can succeed, but also we celebrate those successes as well. So we have internal awards that nobody hears about outside. And because I'm a fan of wordplay, they go Muse, so it's a voucher, a music or a book voucher. Booze is the next one up. Shoes, be of no surprise to you, and snooze, so they get the day off. And anybody within my team can nominate anybody else, and the magnitude of the award will correspond to the activity, whatever it was that individual delivered. But so I think we need to encourage bravery. We need to support it, and also in having great ideas, but also in calling things out. Definitely.
And I think those things, I mean, every team has the ability to have a culture, its own culture, its own vision, almost for the team that fits the kind of the master vision of the overall culture. And I think one thing that I'll share, again, looping back to contact sport, I don't think anyone's ever been successful at something where they haven't worked really, really hard for a very, very long period. And I like to share that because the last few years has been so difficult for all of us in all different ways. And it's probably a bit of an opinionated outcome from, but I do think there is certain elements within I say the world, the country, where I think the ability to want to work hard, it has changed slightly when we're trying to look at how we can work hard. What's the environment that we're working hybrid now? We're not necessarily in an office, or we're fully at home. It's how we've been able to apply working consistently hard for a period, as well as being part of a culture. I think I share that because you look at the news every day and you hear this doom and gloom about an economy every day. You can imagine hearing that again and again and again. And then all of a sudden, either you're looking for a job or you're in an organization, it's difficult. You've almost got every reason to think it's tough. So I think being brave sometimes is talking to people when things are tough as well. Actually being open with a mentor that you might have within a business, being open with a manager that you have, or peers that you can have those open conversations about how you're feeling. Because I think intrinsically, we work hard when we believe in something, and a business that has a culture and a purpose is going to make you to want to work hard, and trying to weigh that up with working hard and working too hard, I think something we need to be very conscious about.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've all worked incredibly hard through the pandemic. There's been an excess of burnout. I think well-being, everybody's well-being has taken a hit. Yes, we've worked from home, but we've had to manage home and work and caring and just looking after ourselves. So yeah, I can completely agree with you. I think that, we are hearing doom and gloom about the economy, but I think the life sciences industry is the only industry that can get this country out of the doldrums. So we need to continue to work hard. And I think there's still very much a place for flexible working. It's about, I said earlier, about giving people an environment in which they can succeed. There will be certain individuals who perhaps they need to be in a lab-based setting the majority of time. But I don't feel like there's a one-size-fits-all. I don't think that everybody should be forced back into the office. But what are you saying from a client perspective? So what do companies want, and what are the candidates pushing for?
It's a mixed bag. It comes down to ultimately, there are some roles where you can't be doing the production of a cell therapy product in your bedroom with a non-sterile environment. So there's some roles that naturally need to be within a certain environment. Not ideal, right? It's not going to cause you a few problems in the long run. But there are certain roles. If you take the roles that can be a little bit between we're seeing them. Some organizations very much happy to create as flexible and as open as it possibly works. Sometimes that's been to attract the talent, because that's what I think there's probably more of a drive in the last few months, where I think there's been a bigger push for people to come back than we've seen over the last year. Definitely more organizations trying to get more people back, looking at performance, looking at commercialities of an organization, impact because of economies and different changes. So it is a mixed bag. I think the most important thing is if someone joins an org, it's what works best for both parties and being realistic about that. Not everyone's going to offer you the same things. And I think that's kind of an honest, open conversation when you're slightly earlier in your career. I know some people have done exceptionally well trying to get degrees, doctorates and everything in a difficult environment where you haven't had as much support because you've done it from home, and it's a huge success. But there is an element of sometimes slightly early in the career, learning from osmosis by hearing, seeing, watching, feeling, almost smelling type environment can really, really help accelerate long-term career. So it depends on the makeup of the business. How experienced is the group to get people up and running? If it's a bunch of experienced people, it's less relevant. If it's a few experienced and a few juniors, you probably need to be closer. So
yeah,
we're seeing different, but there's been a bigger drive to get some people back than probably, I think, 2022. But again, it's makeup of the organization, ambitious of the company, and what they're going through.
Yeah, I agree. If you're bringing in those who are fresh into role or fresh into industry, they do need more of the hands-on and the immediate supervision. So it's absolutely critical for those individuals to have a support system, have a tribe around them to help them to learn. What I'm conscious of, and I know there was a panel on this earlier in the day, is around diversity and inclusion. And if we are pushing people back into the workplace again, then women still have a very high proportion of the caring responsibilities, and that will prevent them, I think, from coming back into those roles, and then we'll have a high level of female worklessness, which is I think both of us, we definitely don't want to see that happen. I see it. Jasmine's just appeared.
Yeah,
are we nearly there?
Yeah, my goodness. I mean, we could obviously let you go on for hours, I think, and it's been great to listen to you guys talk about the real importance of people and culture within a company. I like the comparison that we're all just bacteria at the end of the day. But yeah, no, it was a really interesting session, and thank you so much, both Ricky and Claire and everybody that had joined us for the session. We will be back at 1:30 for the gamekeepers and poachers session. At the end of this one, we will also be presenting the winner of the Life Sciences Inspiration of the Year Award, so please do make sure you join us for that. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. See you all later. All the very best.
Take care. Bye-bye.